Welcome to our podcast, where we resurrect the spirit of Nigeria's historic society of creatives. The Ambari Club was founded in 1961 at the University College Ibadan and nurtured geniuses like Achebe, Soyinka, and Fela. In each episode, we explore the craft of today's artists, preserving the stories of the storytellers that are shaping our generation.
You guys are always giving me all these very, very polite political answers. How are you doing? Good.
Today's guest is a visual artist whose work unites photography, weaving, and collage techniques that are intimately rooted in the storied realities of his community. In 2022, he was selected as part of the Raleigh Art Foundation Young Contemporaries and has since exhibited in art fairs around the world. From gallery walls in Paris and Cape Town to our little studio in Lagos, please welcome Ayobami Ogungbe. Hello, Ayobami. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Thank you for coming on the Ambari podcast.
Thank you for having me.
To kick off, I'll just talk about something very interesting, right? So I know typically you're a set guy, and as predicted, you're tripped out today in your nice set. Typically, I'm a set guy as well, right?
Can I give a shout out to
Go ahead.
Her name is, the name of the brand is Asiko. And the person who makes this her name is Oni. Amazing person, amazing outfit.
Shout out Oyi, shout out Asiko. Free ads and that. Love it.
Yeah,
so I'm typically a set guy as well, right? So when you agreed to do this, I've been plotting from time. I'm like, I'm going to drop my own set, so I'll set you.
Okay.
However, right, I have a very corporate 9 to 5.
Okay.
And I typically work remote, but today something happened and I was called in to take a meeting with the CBN. I know how those guys are now. You have to come very correct and formal.
Yeah.
So once I got the news, everybody else was panicking. Me, in my own mind, it was just like, I'm not going to be able to drop my set. So this guy is going to outdo me. But yeah, so I compromised. So this is my disclaimer. This doesn't count.
Yeah.
So the next time we link up, that's when we'll be doing the real setup.
Yeah, no.
So for this one, I'll allow you. This doesn't count as a win.
Yeah, no.
Okay, but sets aside, aside from knowing you for sets, I know you typically from two things, right? Following you on social media, I know you as a Badagry boy, and I know you as a photographer and artist, right?
Yeah.
And that seems like a beginning of a story and a much further down the story. So to kick off, right, can you just help us bridge the gap from being a Badagry boy and growing from that to being a photographer artist that you are?
Okay. So thank you very much. I was born in Badagry, and I spent the first 18, 19 years of my life in Badagry. And I've always had this art inclination. Used to draw behind my school books and my school notes and all that, that kind of
all of us.
Yeah. And then, but my dad was really supportive too. He saw that I was always sketching behind my school books, and then he took me to this roadside artist. I won't say it's a roadside artist, but then if your studio is by the roadside, yes. So, but then he took me there, and then I started learning about lights. I was there for all through my secondary school. I was there for 4 years, yeah. From GSS 3 to SS 3, right? So I had a basic handle on, drawing, painting, watercolor, oil, and all those things. And then I got admission to uni then. And that was how I got hooked into photography. I met this guy who I think is still one of the greatest photographers I've seen in my life. His name is Chibike Uzoma. He was my mentor, although if he hears me say this now, he'll fight with me he's not my mentor. But then, he introduced me into the world of photography, but not photography, commercial photography, fine art photography, right? And he was also already taking amazing photographs at the time.
Sorry, what's the major difference between commercial photography and fine art photography?
Commercial photography now, shooting for movies, birthday portraits,
pre-wedding shoots.
Yeah, pre-wedding shoots. That's commercial. But fine art is more of when you're trying to use a photography to tell an actual story. It's like visual storytelling.
I'm asking because when you say when you frame it like that, right, it makes it look like commercial photography. You make money.
fine art, you're not really making money like that. It's just fine.
And so now with commercial, it's like somebody needs your service and they pay you money upfront. I mean, you set it up as a business. But then with fine art, you actually have to go shoot the thing that's in your head. Nobody commissions you for that.
Yeah, in pursuit of the idea.
Yeah, I mean, at the very basis of if you are starting out, you're going to look around you and then see something that you want to address with your work, and then you go out. It's mostly, I mean, if you're going to start doing that, it's mostly self-funded. Nobody's going to pay you for that. So, and he was already really shooting amazing stuff at the time. This was like in 2013 or 2014, and I was wild. And he had like just this small 1100D camera at the time with just the basic lens.
Yeah.
For people that do photography, you know how basic that that is, and it was already shooting amazing stuff. I came to find out that this guy was like 1 year older than me, right? Because his mind was just out of this world. And then he told me that to be a better photographer, you just have to read more. And I was like, what's the correlation?
To be a better photographer, you have to read more. That's interesting.
Yes, yes. And you're like, what's the correlation between? And then he started showing me books, and then he started introducing me to like the other artists that he looks at their work, and I was able to. Though me, I needed money, right? So I was just able to like inculcate what he was teaching me into my own commercial whatever. So I started taking portraits of people, and then it would look like fine art. It would look. Do you get it? It was not like the commercial portrait kind of thing.
You were adding your own flavor.
Yeah, I was adding my own flavor, and that all came from what he introduced me to from like the fine art aspect. And then I did that for like all through uni, and then I also when I left uni, I was that from like 2017 till like 2021 after the pandemic, right? But then also during that time, I was already doing like documentary and portrait work. Documentary work in that I was telling stories. For example, I got published by Al Jazeera along the line.
While you were in uni?
No, after uni.
Okay.
After uni, right. So whilst I was taking portraits of people for money, I was also doing like the documentary part where, right, for publications, right, and then along the line, I also got selected by the WordPress Photo Organization, where for like a master class, and then, but I was really young, right? I was like 20, 23, I'll be 24, not really young, but but I was like really young because the other people that were selected,
in that class,
were like Tom Sata, Messi, do you understand? And right, so I had no business being there, but then I was there, and then I had to also learn about that world, and then eventually in 2019, I was supposed to go to New York for the New York Portfolio Review, right? But then the pandemic happened and I couldn't travel, and I was stuck right here because also you could not go out. There was lockdown. You could not go outside and shoot and do all these things, right? So things were like really tough in 2020. But then in 2021, I was just like, look, this can never happen again. There has to be I have to take my practice further, and then that was how I had like this mentor also. I met him in 2015. His name is Victor Ikamino. He's like a very famous Nigerian artist.
Victor, shout out Victor.
Victor. Right, he was like this really cool guy, and then he sort of like tried to make me do art, right?
And like so, that's pivoting away from commercial.
Yeah, from commercial. Yes, right.
Okay.
I mean, he told me that I did not have to stop doing the commercial thing necessarily, but then I should also look into trying to shoot things that would, or trying to create things that would, get to a point where the work is now called fine art, right? And then I can show them on the gallery wall. I can go for residencies and do all these things, right? And this was something that he had been telling me to do since 2015 when I left university.
Right? So that's a 6-year timeline.
Yeah, but it wasn't something that
before you finally get your life to Christ.
Yeah, exactly. But it wasn't really necessarily wagging his fingers in my face. I was just oh, I'm in town, Bami, do you want to come to the studio and help me take some photos of my work? And then I'm like, oh yeah, right. And then I come in, and then he pays me for it. Yeah. And then we sit down in his office, and then he tells me, you really should consider doing fine art, right? You should think of it as a career, right? You can start it now. You don't have to just quit all these things, right? And this was something he said from 2015 passively till like 2021.
So I'm sure, like, imagine if you kicked it off then in 2015.
It would
Right.
have, yeah, but I mean, as with all things with art, it's not something that you want to force.
Fair enough. It
Yeah.
has to come to you when it
Because
comes to you.
yeah, I mean, the thing we find out is it will take the time it wants to take, right? So yeah, and then in 2021, I just sat down and then I was like, all right, I really
So
need to do this.
2021 is when you chose to do this full time.
Yes. Yeah,
Fair.
2021. I mean, I still take commercial portraits.
Yeah,
but
parents.
yeah, I still take commercial portraits, but I mean, so the thing is, so far now, majority of my earnings come from fine art,
Okay.
right? Not I take portrait commercial portraits now
Selectively.
just for
Yeah.
just because I like the clients, right? And I'm like, yeah.
So it's a matter of price now. You have to
Yeah,
actually get to like the-
yeah. If I like, I mean, you have to have my money first of all, right? Then if I like you, I'm like, all right, this can happen. If if I've known you for long,
Yeah.
and that's why if you go to my portrait page, majority of the portraits they are my friends, right? Yeah, people are like, yeah, all right, let's do this. So yeah.
Yeah, I think you said a lot of you talked on a lot of interesting things, right? And for me, it's just how like being an artist, right? It never really happens in like a little silo, right? It's always like an ecosystem because for starters, you spoke about your dad giving you that early validation
Yeah.
from as simple as drawing in books and doodling, which is
Yeah.
something every Ngozi,
Yeah.
Hassan, and
Yeah.
Shehu does, right?
Yeah.
Like all of us doodled, but not everybody's father took them to a roadside
Yeah.
artist, right? And like you also said, okay, you did it in secondary school, and I remember I used to doodle a lot, and I used to draw a lot. I had an uncle who used to draw cartoons in the newspapers at the time,
Yeah.
and so he used to encourage me a lot. And when I went to secondary school, right, I did fine art in junior school. In senior school, when they say, okay, which elective you want to do, and I now had to get me like folks for advice, like, and the guys were like, you can't draw. You don't need to go to school to do to go and do a Greek now. And like I had to go and do a Greek because the story was if you can already draw,
Yeah.
why are you going to learn it in school?
Yeah.
Like go and do a Greek.
Yeah.
And I had to go and plan maze as practical, you get. And again, that's where having like an ecosystem that validates comes to play, right? Because I mean, this isn't to disregard all of the personal work and effort that goes into
it.
like honing your craft. But again, it can't happen in the silos of its own. And even going to the part like where you spoke about Victor, right? On the level of seeing, so you first spoke about your friend in OU with you who was a peer, right?
Yeah.
And an OG.
Yeah.
I also remember at the time, like when I started my writing, it was just me and one of my classmates who were in engineering, and I'm not trying to shit on engineering, but they know really to the story, book like that kind of thing. So it was two of us mostly doing it, right? And there was a fair amount of validation just seeing someone else who thought it was cool too, right? And then meeting an OG who was doing well and living good off this, saying, I've seen what you can do, I think you can do this too.
Also do this,
And something that is very, very interesting is your fine art because, I mean, I had known you as a commercial photographer, like I knew the page, everything. I only pressed follow when I started seeing interesting commercial, interesting fine art, right? That's only when I started following because it was a lot of interesting stuff. And why it particularly clicked for me was the mixed media stuff you do, right? So you do photography, but like you're mixing and interweaving photographs into a single piece. Anytime I see you drift out, like what always comes to mind is, you know how these your muse are like interwoven. It's pretty much how your
my
photographs
work,
are interwoven as well. So for me, it's like this guy living the brand. Yes. So how did coming across that particular like style and medium come about? How did it come to you?
Okay, so one of the things that will happen to you if you have mentors that care about you is that they will try to bring you. They'll try because they've gone like far across. Right, they've gone across all the potholes and landmines that Do you understand?
They'll build a bridge
Yeah,
for you.
exactly. So they will just tell you, oh, don't step here, don't step here, step here. And so one of the things that Victor was able to do for me was to say, but if you're going to do this at all, you have to be honest and authentic about it, right? So take for example me, I have all these drawings and letterings and all these things. It's because I'm from Edo State and I grew up in the village and all this. So it's like you now have to go and look for something that is similar and familiar to your own life, right? And so that is your own journey, and then just hands off.
So it's like, for that part I can't help you.
Yeah, so that's your own part, and then it became like really important for me to find that. Then I just went back to Badagry and I stayed there for I don't know like a month or two, and it just occurred to me that bro, Badagry is a coastal town.
It's giving pilgrimage.
Yeah, right. Badagry is a coastal town, and you find out that you grew up in this place for so long, but then you actually don't know so much about the place. But then, I mean, some things that were not obvious to me started becoming obvious, and then I grew up around so much weaving, right?
Like what? Like basket weaving,
yes,
cloth weaving,
basket weaving, cloth weaving, mat weaving, carpets, curtains, right? Because they had coconuts, they had coconut fibers, they had coconut trees, palm trees. Like it was literally how we made fences growing up, from palm fronds. Do you understand? You know, cut one branch, take the fringes and weave it together, and then it becomes like this long thing. You use it to do fences. You weave mats, you weave baskets. And I was like, this thing just occurred to me like this can also happen with your photographs, right? And so took like 2 separate photographs, put them inside each other. It was shit at first. It wasn't right. And then started to realize that the placement of the photographs also have to have like this context to each other, color wise, form wise, all these things, right? But these are the things that you
figure out as you go.
Figure out as you go, exactly. Yeah. So, but that was how we arrived at weaving, putting this photograph, right? And so it was really important because I was already a photographer, right? Yeah. And so it was like, you could absolutely take this part of your life and your culture and what you like experienced growing up and all these things, and what you took part in, then put it in this new thing that you just found in university, and then it just became something. And which is why the major stories that I tell are stories from my hometown.
And speaking of that, right, like it's your pieces that have moved me the most. Like you said, right, just finding what speaks to you. The ones that speak to me the most are ones where interweaving person and place, right? So it's someone, like a photograph of someone or some people, interwoven with a photograph of a place, right? And again, like that in itself, it's a very it always creates like a very, very interesting tapestry, because you're trying to figure out, okay, like what's the relationship, and like you see like, again, it's not person and person, it's person and place, but you're seeing like similarities in mood, similarities just in a lot of different things, right? So again, like you've said it's something you figure out, but after all these months and years of figuring out, what would you say like are your key guiding philosophies in terms of like selecting what to bring together?
So first of all, the way my process is that I'm already at the end of the piece before I even start, right? It comes to my, it's not like I mean, there's still some figuring out to do whilst you're creating the work, but there is like a general idea of what the piece should look like, or what it should look like. And so you take a lot of photographs at first, right? And then you print them out in small pieces, and then you lay them on the ground, because of course the figures and the landscape has to align.
Has to enter.
Has to align. And not only that, it also has to align, because you're also trying to tell the truth with your work. It also has to be the truth that in real life this scene has something to do with this scene, so that the story is genuine and authentic. So that's why it's important for me to be at the end of the piece before I even start. Do you understand? So I pick these pieces. Sometimes they fail, but then the stories just remain, right? Because there has to be another way to tell the story. That's just what it is, right? So you pick those two photographs because they are small. You can just hold them up like this and look at
Yeah.
it, right? As opposed to looking at it on a laptop screen where you now have to go back and forth and sometimes it's like 3 photographs, 4 photographs, 5 photographs. So you can pick
What's
them.
the most you've done?
Now, even though the works are not out yet, now I've done say 8 photographs.
In one piece.
Yeah,
And it
one
blends.
piece. Yeah, it blends. 8 photographs. That one is really, really going to mess your mind because you really have to look at it. You would really have to look at it.
Yeah.
But then, that would probably be my next show. It's not out yet. But yeah, so you have to look at all the photographs at a go, right? And then decide that, okay, this bunch go together. And then you can now like send the photographs to your printer and then they print the sizes out, right? And because now I'm also messing with forms and see how they play together, right? I'm not printing the photographs the same size, like different, and also there's like a mathematics to it, right? So different sizes, and then you just strip and then put them into each other, and then they create this thing. And one of the most important thing about this work is you don't even know what the work is going to look like until you like are done with like the last strip, and then because bro, there's like I have like a 60% success rate.
So there's some that you just do like
nah. Yeah,
the way you appeared in my head.
like there's no way I'm showing somebody else this work because how am I going to explain to them that I'm the one that did this?
The idea.
Right. So I don't bin it. I just keep it.
Yeah.
Right. I keep it because I mean, the thing with art is that you can look at it like I don't know another time and then it births like something
totally.
Yeah, so.
I mean, looking at it from my own end, right? In my own writing, or the very little writing I've been doing these days, I've been trying to do like some interweaving myself, and it's less interweaving of the physical and more like interweaving of digital, right? So, how it works for me in practice is, in this phase I'm exploring screenplays. And I just have a very, very like general idea, right? So like you said, you have like 1-2 photographs and you try to see how they merge. So for me, for instance, I may want to do a short film. I know the location of it, the setting of it. I have an idea of 1 or 2 characters, and I'm just trying to figure out how things go, right? I have an idea of a timeline, and on my like ChatGPT, which is like my creative assistant, right? And I'm describing in detail. So first I say, okay, I want to do a screenplay, but like this is what I have, and this is what I have, and how do we make it work, right? And we're attacking it act by act, scene by scene, and like I'm giving it ideas, it's giving me ideas, and we're just going back and forth, weaving stuff together, right? And again, it's a very similar process in the sense that sometimes it's just iteration, sometimes it's just this pattern of combination may work here but not work here, and just figuring out as you go. In your own phase of work, right, where it's photography, right, do you see yourself exploring similar stuff where you're merging actual photography with digital stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, as an artist, you're not supposed to.
There are no boundaries.
Like you should be open to.
So you're not one of those type of guys that will say, "Oh, AI is ruining this."
No, so like we had this conversation earlier before we started recording. It's just the application to how you use like certain mediums, right? So if you're going to use AI like as a medium, or if you're going to use it in like a different setting, or you can give it like a different capacity, right? So now who would have thought that you could? A lot of people have said my work looks like math. Right? And I'm like, yeah, cool. I mean, it's not a math. But like that's what it looks like to you. And I mean, if I'm looking at it from your perspective, it's a math. Right? So you're actually right. But a lot of there are just like a lot of ways to use something, right? You're holding that glass now. Somebody else like a candle holder, right? But then it's holding your drink and you're chilling, right? Some people it's like a plant. They can pour everything in and then put plant and you can see the tap roots, right? So you can use AI in different kind of ways. AI can be your assistant, the same way you use it in your writing, where it's just like another person you're bouncing ideas off, and then it's like a knowledgeable assistant. It's like, do you understand? AI is like, it has like a lot of information is available to it, right? Exactly, and then you're talking to it and it's giving you ideas, but then you already know what you want to write to look like. It doesn't. So you just have to tell it like this is, and you can say, okay, there's this other thing that looks like what you're trying to do, and this, right? So, but a lot of people want to use graphic design. They don't see graphic design as like a small part of the process. They want it to be the entirety of it, and that's what everybody is doing. They want ChatGPT to be the entirety of what they are doing, right? Instead of it to just be like a small, like a small part of what it is, right? So, if we're particular, if artists are particular about the process, there's no telling where they're going to like end up.
Yeah.
Right.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So I mean, graphic design. Of course, I'm going to do graphic design. I'm going to learn graphic design. I'm going to ask a graphic designer to design something for me, and then I'm going to strip it. Right? And then weave it with a photograph or weave it with 5 photographs, and then you start to see all sorts of things come to play. Somebody once told me that your studio is like it's a laboratory, right? And what you do in lab, you test things out. You mix everything up, and then some of it explodes, some of it,
some of it is pop up.
Yeah, some of it, exactly.
Some of it is mojo.
Yeah. So everything. There's no telling where you can go. So
fair enough. Fair enough. Tell me about Home, right? Because that was your first solo exhibition.
Yeah, my debut solo.
Yeah, that was the first time we met as well. And I think that was also like my first time seeing your work in person as well. So I think it's important to speak about it in terms, not just like the event in itself, but the journey there as well, right? I know you walked really towards it, like from being a young contemporary artist up until the point of them signing you, and of course the manifestation of the exhibition in itself, which is the milestone, because not everybody who walks that journey ends up at that destination as well. So how did that work out for you?
Man, it's been amazing working with the people that really, right, and
any special shout outs?
Shout outs to Cynthia. Cynthia is the manager of really, by the way. Shout outs to these people. They don't like to be out there, but I'm putting them on the spot. Shout outs to Adeolua, Joba. That's curator. Shout outs to JC Bride. JC Bride doesn't work really anymore, but then he was like
I know JC.
Yeah, he was really instrumental.
It made you answers.
Oh yeah. So JC Bride was who was assigned to me initially, but then he had to go out for his masters, and then I got assigned to Adeolua. Amazing curators, amazing art writers, right? So they wrote my artist statement. I mean, I said it to them, and they wrote it, right? And then they work with me all through the journey. Studio visits, this, that, bouncing ideas off each other. And it's funny because this path I'm on, I didn't really put me like onto it, right? And she really invested in my art, right? In the process of it, in that, she assigned a curator to me. She assigned someone to do studio visits. She also visited my studio, by the way, and then she had like really long conversations with me about the destination of my art and what it could look like, and and what I also want for myself and all that, right? So it was, and then they also hired like a communications expert to actually talk to me about talking about my art, right? Which is not something.
So I think is any of this authentic, or is this what you told you to say?
I swear to God, it's true, man. I promise you, man. I was surprised myself, like, why do we need all these things and why do we need all these people? But then, like, because at some point, I didn't really was even upset because she thought I wasn't even, I don't want to say upset, but she was a little bit, she saw me as being like I was like a physical or something, like I was not serious, right? Because I was like, we just want to create work. They bring communications expert, right? The communications person the speech person was actually Wana. Shout out to her also, right?
Wana is the correct guy.
Yeah, so she was like, oh, you just have to be honest, talk about your work, don't talk about this one because it distracts from this one. This is how right? You stand in front of a mirror, practice this. Be honest, since you're honest and all these things, right? And you know, artists now, oh no, I don't want to talk. I just want to create this work and be in the background and all that stuff, right? But then it really was like, well, some of you will really have to walk up to people and then have like real conversations about your work, which has helped me, right? I mean, some other times they have put me on the spot where there's like a talk that the gallery, they even suggested I did an artist talk. Which artist has done artist talk in real, right? So right after my solo, they pushed me to like, yeah, we think you should do an artist talk. I was like, they were like, you don't have to, but it's one of those you don't have to, but
you should.
Yeah, right. So they're like, you should absolutely do an artist. I'm like, you know what, alright, fine, right. And then it has made me be more comfortable talking about my work to people, and now I'm no longer nervous. So that's like a point, I don't know, of artist development that artists really need to like take part of. I think I'm privileged being signed to them, honestly, because I know how it is in the streets as an individual artist.
I think it's really important to talk about this thing, especially because and I would say like especially because we know how it is being a creative without access to all of this type of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Figuring out on your own,
Mm-hmm.
figuring it out on your own, and you're blessed to have folks like really, right, that they've invested all of that. And I think for me, it's important to have these conversations because not everybody would have a really, right? But we would want to get as far as we can without having that type of support. So it's type of thing where they may not have a really who gives them a who is a world class communications and person and a performer as well, right? But at least if you speak about it, they know to find a way to bridge the gap, right? If you speak about like other ways these folks have provided support for you, they may not have the same level of support, but they will know there's a gap to bridge.
I mean, these are the things that, as an artist, are the things that you have to do for yourself, really. Right? But then the gallery does all these things for you. Right? I mean, these are the things that, but then you may necessarily not know to do them. Right? Because, I mean, why would you think that you need to learn how to talk about your work? Why would you think that? I mean, a lot of other artists know that they can, by looking at other artists' work, they can also inform their own work, right? Learn something from their own work that would inform, whether material-wise, whether it's how to paint, whether it's what the subject matter of their work looks like. But then, I remember at some point, the gallery assigned someone to me. Her name is Elaine. She was the director in LA. She's an amazing person, absolutely. And then she just checks up on you. That's her job. Right? To just check up on you. Right? To just say, hey, right? And she doesn't do it like, it's not obvious that that's what she's doing. Right? Just like,
just a casual pulse check.
How are you? This, that. How is you preparing for a show? How are you?
I wonder how like an unsigned artist can mimic that. You just have your homeboy. Who's like always
right. And Elaine is really like an art woman. Right, because she's based out of LA. She goes to all the shows. Right, and then she's going to take photographs of the paintings that she saw that reminds you of your work. Right. And then she's going to send it to you. And she's so well read. She knows all these artists. And then she's going to recommend books to you. She's going to recommend all these other artists to you. She's going to send their page to you for you to. Do you understand? So it's sort of like, bro, it just, that kind of knowledge and that kind of care just sets you apart from, right? Because I'm not going to lie, the unsigned artist now has to work like twice as hard to match your wavelength, right? And they're not going to stress you. They're not going to say, oh, we need 10 paintings tomorrow, right? You have all the time. They would assign people to come and visit you in the studio to have conversations with you and, so,
This is a very interesting, line of conversation, right? Because in art in general, we're very obsessed with this, the lonely artist creating genius in solitude, right? So, the writer who is just in his study penning stuff, or the artist who is just in the studio. I think the people who have gotten this right are the music folks, Because you don't see anybody that tries to do music and is saying no more, just be in my studio.
I
Like
swear.
music guys have
Yeah.
producer, sound engineer,
Yes.
manager, stylist.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
every
Exactly.
someone is in uni, he has team. Like
Yeah.
all the entire team can be non-professional. They're all
Yeah.
students with him, but he has a full
Yeah, but
team,
they have-
right?
yes.
They understand the essence and the importance of like collaborating, right? And
Yeah.
I think folks like that in other fields also need to pretty much understand the utility of collaboration, right? And again, it doesn't have to be professionals, right? But just having the right people in your
People to-
community who
yeah.
can add the right things to your work.
Exactly. Absolutely. It just takes the edge off.
Yeah.
Like it takes the having to think about 10 things
At a time.
at a time.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's been such a breeze being like a full-time artist, right? I mean, it has its own, even with all these things, of course, there's like the craziness of, because you're still doing work regardless, and you have to, your work, you're really artist, you cannot just give them anything to put on the wall, right? You can't just, the work has to be neat.
Them same thing is keep their own artists.
Yeah, so like I mean, so even you have like church mind,
Yeah.
because somebody cannot invest this much in you, right? And then it's like a parent. Do you understand? You move them from Oshodi and you take them to Lekki and you put them in this house and then you buy all the books, you pay all the school fees, you talk to them, do you understand?
They better not get carried over.
You understand? And then it's time for you to now bring the work, right? And then so also because the gallery takes they bear the brunt of they are literally producing your show,
Yeah.
right? And so you have just one job to show up with. just
They
you
do
understand?
everything else.
Yeah, and then it's like they're trying to, the gallery also has its own ambitions and all that, and they can only get there with like the artists that they affiliate themselves with. So
Yeah.
the
You need the brand, but you also have to contribute to the brand.
exactly right.
Yeah.
So it's a help me, I help you situation.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
they are
yeah.
helping you.
Everybody's incentivized to show
Yeah,
up.
you also have to help yourself to help them so that everything can work, pari passu, and then you have like an amazing show. So yeah.
Speaking about shows, right? When is your next show? You spoke about having another show where we'll see your 81.
Yeah. So we just got curated into the Investec art fair in Cape Town. I think Investec even announced that like yesterday or the day before yesterday, where they used like a photo of me from like 10 years ago or so.
Before.
Yeah, before the boy is fresh. But I mean, it's not shout out to them. It's not their fault. I had like a.
Did you like approve it? Like typically they tell you to send like a photo
Yeah,
and a bio
I
and
don't
stuff
have
that.
I don't have like an official
recent-
headshot, right?
No,
so
no.
I'm
You should
going
fix
to
that now.
I have to fix that.
You get the what's her name? Get Oyin to do another set for you.
Yeah,
Fix that.
I have to fix that. I have to get like a proper headshot and all
Yeah.
that. But yeah, so my next show is going to be in South Africa, February 16th to 18th. That's when the show is running
Okay,
for.
that's just
and
some time.
Yeah, I have like they give me I think I'm sharing a booth with one other amazing artist from South Africa. So that's my next show, and then from there I have another show. That's my second solo in LA, Relay Gallery LA. Yeah, that's my second show. It's titled Away.
That's interesting because the first one was titled Home, and this one is Away. Is
Something
it because it's abroad?
Exactly, that's one. But it's a crossover from like the football world, home and away.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Because
fair enough.
I'm a football fan. But then that also, I just took that like, oh, home and away, and then it just right because
Yeah,
that's
compliments.
basically the two places that I've been in my life.
You've been home
So
and
I've been
you've been
home
from
and I've been away, right?
Fair
And then I mean now we're on that journey where we have to go back home, where I have to go back home, right? So most of the work is, so the initial part of the work is home, which is why I was shown it really Lagos.
Yeah.
In,
Then
at
away
home and
would
then the
be-
aways and really early. They were supposed to, fun fact, they were supposed to show simultaneously. They were supposed to open simultaneously.
Fair. But what's got
But the workload was a lot.
To produce for both of them.
Yeah, for producing at the same time, and also other artists also have to show their work, right? So at the time they had like they had not at the time, you know, really I'm not the only artist there now, so they have to also accommodate other people. So yeah.
Okay. Speaking of the constant repetition of home, right? I remember very recently you announced the Oka Gallery / residency program, which is you pretty much giving back like to the Badagry art scene and trying to do the same things that like Victor did for you, right, to everybody else. Do you want to go into that a bit?
So
because it's giving like heavy big man vibes, like
look, let me tell you the truth now, right? So I made small money from my home exhibition. Small money.
We tried to buy you. We knew how much it cost. It's not small.
Wait. I made small money from the home exhibition. Shout outs to the gallery, and they were really, they really held their part. They held it down, right? So and it's that. I mean, I'm broke. I'm poor now again. Right, but it was
now.
Yeah, I'm broke now. Right, so but it was that situation where I needed something else to do because I had this much time, right, and I just needed something else to do. But also it has to be worthwhile. It has to be important work and all that. So I just felt like, look, this place is where I come from, right, and it could be so much more. It could be a lot more. And it used to be a lot more.
Yeah, but that used to be that.
Yeah, it used to be
a proper
bro,
getaway spot.
it was a cool place. It's still a cool place, right? But I mean, so many things have deteriorated, and people now bypass it to go to Wida. People literally pass through my hometown to go to Wida and spend their money, right? And I was like, look, it really doesn't concern me. And one of the things that I now want to do is to make it like an art destination. Right, and one of the things that will help us get there is to sort of like have it like as an annex to the Lagos space, right?
Fair enough.
Right, just have it like an annex to the Lagos space. So what we have done is, and the main thing that I noticed actually is that we actually have a lot of amazing artists, but we keep moving out.
Yeah.
Right? It's not that we keep moving out. I mean, we move out first.
I mean, you moved out too now.
Yeah. I mean, which sounds like, exactly. But I mean, we had to move out first before we became like prominent artists. Like, do you understand? Like, I'm going to drop some names now, like, because I want you to look into these artists and actually buy their work. They're amazing artists, right? Like someone like Samuel V2, someone like Sejiro Avose, someone like Israel Padonu. These are like, they had to move out. Someone like myself too. Right? We had to move out. We had to come closer to the Lagos metropolis and Lagos art scene, right? And it's like a gradual thing because I first of all lived in Yanapaja, then I moved closer to Ogba, then I moved closer to Anthony where I'm at right now, right? And you know, so that we can easily so that we can easily make work, and then we're closer to these galleries, and we're closer to these curators. Do you understand? So that they can see your work, you can go to, it's easier for you to go to art galleries and see other people's work and then be in the art scene, right? But in Badagry it's different because, I mean, even though there are artists living and working in Badagry and they are producing amazing work, even on a craft level, right? They did not, a lot of them, you can't, I mean, they're comfortable, right? But then you cannot just drag them from, because you want them to be part of the land.
So you want to make it conducive.
Yeah, so I want to make
it
it
stay there and create there as connect to the larger ecosystem from there.
Connect. So one of the things that we've done with the fund is that the fund is basically just to announce to the Lagos people that there is this artist.
Fair enough.
Yeah, the fund it's not about the money, right? They are already creating amazing work, right? It's just like, okay, this money is here. Lagos people like money. This money is here, and then like Yeah, and we're giving it to this artist.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, so if you're giving this much money to this artist, what do they create?
Yeah.
And then you're like, you're interested. And so we host the show for them in Lagos, right, on the island where there's like a huge culture of collecting our work, because we also want you to collect the artist's work and then put money in their pocket also. Then they go back to Badagry. So if they are living and working in Badagry and they are selling in Lagos where the culture of collecting is
Then there's no incentive to leave.
yeah, there's no incentive to leave, right? And not only that, we are also starting like a community project where artists start installing. We're going to every year we're going to commission one artist to create like public sculptures, right? And then it's going to be like a whole exhibition where people can come. Right, it's for the public. It's for the public of Badagry people. Even the sculptures are going to be so big that the commission we're also commissioning the public people in Badagry, like the community, right? So they are also going to take part in the creating of the artwork and the installation and everything, right? And then we're going to invite the Lagos metropolis or the Lagos art scene to come and see. The exhibition is going to be up for probably up to a month, right? So that you can see. Well, it's going to be outside on the streets, right? So, and I feel like it's a conversation that has to be had in making the whole place like an art destination. We recently just secured like a building in Badagry for art residencies and all that, or just for starters, right? Yeah. So eventually, we're looking at a situation whereby people just don't visit Badagry because there's like a slave trade history, and then come see the slave museums. I mean, come for that because it's like a significant part of the town's history. But you can come for that, and then you can go visit.
A gallery and a museum.
Yeah, you can go visit an art museum. You can go visit an artist studio, right? You can go visit all these people, right? And it gradually we try to drive more art traffic to the town, and then eventually when all these things start to happen, somebody can decide that they want to open like a small gallery. Right, there's a street in New York where it's just galleries, just one full street, right? And they are still there. They're not shut down because they could not pay rent. So why can't that happen in Badagry? It can absolutely happen, right? And it's a marathon thing.
Yeah, I mean it's a very like ambitious dream. So I can see why you're broke again. But at the same time, like I think it's one of those things where we say like somebody has to do it, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I'm looking forward definitely to seeing what comes of that. Like like if it's on your page and one or two other pages, I'll show up for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can't show up to Cape Town for investors because capitalism won't let us.
Bro.
But yeah, we are definitely looking forward to seeing like whatever you present. Art aside, right? Like, what would you say? I'm asking this because you know how they say like as a creative or as an artist, like you have to do a fair amount of living and just experiencing before you create, right? So art aside, like on the living and experiencing part, what would you say you're looking forward to going into the new year?
I need people to give me money. I want to experience that because there's a lot I can do with money. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to this year, bro. Now art has consumed majority of my life. The only other part is my girlfriend and my friends, my male friends.
It's interesting you bring your girlfriend, right? Because again, like I said, I follow your page. So there were three things, obviously, but it's two I mentioned. 1 year Badagry boy, 2 year photographer / artist, and 3 year very, very intense romantic, right? Like so the way you move, right? Like so me, the way people I'm married, right? But like I don't post so much about it. But still people always saying, you're such a quintessential Igbo man. Any small thing, my wife this, my wife that, and I'm not even showing like evidence, right? But you like any small thing is like, my girlfriend breathed in oxygen today. She exhaled. Like is on that level. So how is that going? Does that fit into is that part of the living that you live to create, or is that just you on the regular day?
I'm not going to lie. On that front, it's sweet to be me because I'm enjoying, right? But yeah, I mean, she definitely takes like the edge off. She's cool. She's amazing. She's an amazing human being.
Shout out girlfriend. Shout out girlfriend.
Shout out to Mona, right? And almost everywhere I go with her, and she's cool. And listen, her, she's really beautiful, she's a pretty woman. So yeah, and I do a lot of things on my own, right? But then some of it I do with her also. She's cool.
She's an artist as well.
No, she's a model.
Okay. So it's giving me.
Yeah. That was how I originally started though. Come on, let me snap a picture. See where we are now.
All these men that use
Bro,
it. Come, let me
So
stop.
yeah, everyone, that's what we think. Yeah. And then but also I also try to be, I have like a whole family, nuclear family. Not my own that I raised, the one that I'm a part of. Right? That my parents started. Right? I'm also like cool with them, closer to them, talk to them all the time. I also have like amazing friends that keep me grounded. And then because I'm an artist, I'm also inclined to go look at other artists' work. So that takes some of my time. I'm also a very, very big movie person. I like to watch movies. And I'm also into comedy. I like watching stand-up comedy.
You're a funny guy on Twitter.
Yeah,
funny guy. I give you that.
I also do stand-up comedy leisurely, right? Yeah. So.
You do stand-up?
Yeah, I was at Weed at one time. I brought the roof down.
You brought the roof down?
Bro, nigga,
I went there last week. There was still a roof.
Yeah, bro, they must have rebuilt it. So yeah, I did that on the side. But yeah, most of my leisure, most of my time, I'm on Pinterest. I'm on the internet looking at other artists. I'm watching artist talks and all that stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
That keeps me grounded.
So I mean, definitely. I'm a big weirder person myself. Guys that are yeah, they do very, very great work. So I'll definitely catch you there. Yeah, better make me laugh. No wala now.
Don't worry, we'll
catch up there. Cheers and thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.